Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and Have Kept It Off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and maintenance. Today we're going to continue the series on Confessions of an Obese Child and talk about my adventures at the hospital. Now before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also in the episode notes, you'll see links to my website, my podcasts, my books, and if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Also, please like this video as soon as you watch it. All right, so a good follow-up or a predecessor to this would be the one I did on my father. So my father, as I mentioned, was a doctor, and he was a very good doctor, very famous doctor. And he groomed me to be a doctor, and I am not a doctor. And we'll talk about this in later episodes, but there were two older brothers, and I was perceived to be the one that would excel the most at school. So, and given that I was the youngest, I was groomed to be the doctor. So he would go to the hospital on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, at least 2 half days. The guy was very dedicated to his work. Part of it, he was dedicated to his work, and part of it, I think he just wanted to get out of the house to a certain extent. But my father was legendary at this hospital. When he would walk in, everybody knew him because he was a very famous doctor and very sociable. He knew like everybody in the hallway. Just walk through the hallway, because he had been there 35 years and so forth. So he would take me on the weekends and I would want to go. Now he used to run the morgue at this hospital. He would do autopsies. And I mean, I know this sounds peculiar and weird, but I loved hanging out in the morgue, seeing the dead bodies. He would put me, or I asked to be more precise, he would put me in the frozen refrigerators, right? Slide me in next to the dead body. I just thought it was the coolest thing, seeing all these organs and jars and all the tools they use. I just thought it was fascinating. And I would see him work. I'd see him use the microscope and look at slides and dictate. I found all of it to be fascinating. So sometimes he would tell me, Gregory, I got to go work. And so I would just roam around the hospital, just roam around. And, a kid, and I was doing this from like 6 to 18. I was going pretty much every weekend. It's just fun. A massive hospital. I'm walking through the basement. I find the area where they do experiments on the animals. So I'd see these poor little mice with gigantic tumors coming out of them for their experimental drugs that they're using. And I would just go into places that I was not meant to go. That being said, I would get caught by the cops a lot, or the security guards, but I had a very good relationship with them. I would hang out with them at the front and just chit chat. They would know who I was. They'd recognize me. And it was quite a lot of fun. Now, at the hospital, I did do some like volunteer work. Like I was an altar boy there. This hospital was not Catholic, but it was like the chapel was like interdenominational, and so they had a service that was Catholic, and then they had a service that was, I guess, Protestant. And I would help the priests that were there with the mass. I would record the masses for them, because a lot of people, of course, were very sick and couldn't go down to the chapel, so they would televise it to the different rooms in the hospital. So I help out there. But most of the time, I just remember, again, my dad would be like, here's the money, you go. And so, of course, I would just go to the cafeteria and get a bunch of food. I remember they had this vending machine room where you walk in, gigantic, and they had different types of vending stuff. This is back in the 80s, where they had the rotating vending machine that had the sandwiches and stuff, and you had to punch in the button. And it was very like old school. But I would just get tons of Eskimo pies or ice cream sandwiches, and back then you could go to the vending thing was like 50 cents for one of these things. And it's just Cookie Monster. I'd go to the cafeteria, just all I would do is eat. And eventually when I got to high school, when I got to college, I should say, I decided to go undecided humanities, because I always loved history and geography. And this is partly my father's fault, because he taught me history and geography. And that broke his heart. And because he wanted me to be a doctor. And in retrospect, what he should have done, because they ended up paying for my college education, was tell me, hey, if you're not going to be pre-med, we're not going to pay for your college. And that's what he should have done, because then I would have gone back to pre-med, because I wasn't going to pay, right? But he didn't, and I never became a doctor. And I think that, up to the day he died, I think that broke his heart. But I do have very fond memories of going to the hospital and just seeing him work and exploring and just see from the mind of a kid. It was just a great time. And of course, the best part was I was just binge eating like I did every day. The best part of binge eating was doing it in private. So I got to get away from my house and just binge eat at the hospital and just get all the food I wanted. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.